Sends out Morales with the pitch. Here's
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in and welcome back. This video I wanted to talk about and directly speak to my aspiring college athletes. Anytime I talk to athletes that are wanting to go to college, maybe athletes that are entering into college, or even like early on in their experience in college, I like to talk kind of from a lens of what Brett would have liked to know at 17, 18, 19 years old. I felt pretty ill prepared going into college, having not had been around a ton of people or people that would come back into the community and maybe speak about what it would be like. I actually go back to my old high school and speak about this every year too, because I know how much it would have helped me probably at the time. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. But a lot of things that I wish I would have known kind of going into my college experience. Back then too, I wasn't looking for the answers, I think. I think a lot of that is on me. I think first and foremost, kind of putting yourself in that environment as often and as frequent as possible. For me, obviously, my path was through baseball, and I was looking for, baseball things, baseball advice, baseball circumstances, and baseball these days, college baseball especially, is so much more readily available on TV, social media. There's way more college baseball games on ESPN if you're getting the ESPN app, and I watch all kinds of college baseball games now that weren't even ever televised. So before I ever stepped foot on a campus, I think I'd been to like one or two baseball games, and that's it. So first and foremost, I think a lot of that comes kind of down on the you. If you're looking to learn more about anything, really, like you've got to immerse yourself into that community and culture to ultimately learn it. But one of the biggest things that I talk to that age of player about comes down to like three main pillars. Now, when I got into college, I went to the University of Missouri, and I had some really good mentors early on there in my experience. And this was a piece of advice that was given to me that has really stuck with me. And I make sure to share this every time I go and speak with younger college aspiring athletes. But the three pillars are sport, social, and your studies. And the advice that was given to me is that, especially in a college athlete's day in your life, there's these three main pillars that everybody deals with, everybody kind of struggles with to some circumstance and desires, in some circumstances, So those three pillars, again, are sport, social, and your studies. Three S's on purpose to make it stick a little bit better. And, the main point of the advice was, you have these three main pillars, but you don't always have time for all three of these main pillars. If you pick your sport and your social, then the studies can sometimes slack. If you pick your studies and your social, then your sport can sometimes slack. So it's really up to the athlete to understand those are the three main things that are demanding of your time, or tempting of your time. And depending on what your goals are, what your friend crowd kind of looks like, what your accomplishments, like where you want to go after your sport, after your college days are over. Those studies obviously can differ on how much they demand from you too. But the main piece being, like, you have three, and we only really have time to do two really well. And obviously I think we can all sit there and say, well, your sport and your studies need to be your top two priorities. But we also all are human, want to build relationships, want to have relationships outside of our studies and sports. And there's a healthy way to do that for sure. That don't kind of detract from your sport or detract from your studies. But really, ultimately, it comes down to sacrifice. As does everything else in life. You have to sacrifice one of those areas for the other two to be really excellent. And if that's what we're pursuing, excellence, then the social sometimes can get in the way of that as well. But another big thing that I really like to talk about when I go in with these college high school athletes aspiring to be college students, college athletes, is what a daily schedule looks like. I had no perception, had zero idea what that was going to look like going into college. You know, in your high school days, it's very scripted for you. It's very cut and dry. It's very easy. The biggest thing when you get into college is, you know, the hours of the school time definitely like shrink down, but the direction you get pulled and all these other times from your sports or from the studies that are necessary outside of the classroom to keep up with, you know, with your grades and whatnot, the demand for that all rises, you know. So just for example, you know, in season time frame, I'm going to start there. Your in season time frame, you know, as a college athlete, especially if you're traveling, you know. So my experience, we would play on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Thursday was typically a travel day, and we had school back again on Monday. And I did a very poor job my first semester, spring semester, where we were in season and still had classes, keeping up with my grades. A lot of my study habits when I was in high school revolved around taking quality notes, paying attention in class, and I got good grades for the most part. You know, but then as I went into a circumstance here in season during college, first off, you're just in class less often. You're in classes either on, you know, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, sometimes just on Tuesdays and Thursdays, sometimes only on like Mondays and Wednesdays. And so when I got thrusted into a world where I wasn't in person, where I could, you know, make notes, retain information, and then it was on, you know, my away from the class study habits that you know, were my grades were really propped up by that. I struggled with it, you know. So that in season time frame, the traveling and the missing of those days can be a really big challenge, you know, for the studies portion of that. But it's a lot more travel. It's a lot more of juggling different things. You know, juggling game days and, you know, wanting to be ultra focused for that, wanting to be locked in for that, but then obviously still having things outside of your sport, responsibilities outside of your sport that you're you know, expected to get done. And the missing of the class was the hardest thing in season for me to deal with, and I know other athletes as well. For the off season time frame, this time is much more, you know, spent local. But holy cow, the demand of your schedule during those time frames, especially during certain months of the year, was insane. You'd having morning weights, going to class. Morning weights typically is like at 6. Classes are usually starting at like 8 or 9. So you're flying from weights and showering and flying out the door trying to make it to your class on time. You're trying to lock in for your class from 9 to 12, 1, 2, depending on how long your workload is for that day, immediately going then to practice till 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes the practices in the fall, you know, you have like fall scrimmage games, which we had, fall competition stuff. You know, so that kind of takes you to 6. You're trying to eat because you're trying to keep up with your nutrition throughout all of this. You know, what does lunch look like? What does that dinner afterwards look like? All of that very important and impactful for the sports, you know, journey for you there. But then, especially as a freshman at the University of Missouri, we had to go log in and scan our hand and actually log a certain amount of study hall hours every single week. And if we didn't meet those, you know, there were repercussions for it, you know. So you go on from 6, and then you've got to get 6 to 7 to 8 to 9, depending on, you know, what your study hall hours, you know, look like. You had to go kind of log those hours. It was good in the time frame, especially as you were transitioning into college, just kind of setting a scheduled time to make sure you had time to get those things completed. The way it worked for us is if you know, kind of pass that test or you know, check those boxes of being able to kind of handle that on your own, then you kind of graduated out of that and didn't have to like log your study hours there until obviously, you know, the grades maybe become an issue after that. But so you're going from, you know, 6 a.m. You just heard my schedule there. You know, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. with workouts, 8 a.m. to 12, 1, you know, trying to get some lunch, trying to make it to the field, doing whatever kind of, you know, practice that you have that day. Typically was going till 5 or 6, going to dinner, going to study hall, and then you're back home from 8 to 9. Where in that does that leave for your social social time of those pillars? So that would be things that would kind of linger on into the night, and if you made that decision, ultimately staying out too late, doing what college kids do, could affect that whole next day, because you're going to be expected to get up the next day to do the whole thing over again and still be able to perform at your best, because the entire time you're trying to keep your grades up, you're trying to win a spot. Once you've won a spot on the team, maybe your eyes are starting to shift to professional sports, professional baseball, professional football. So you're always kind of pursuing those things. And, the schedule there is in really high demand. Those are all kind of some things I guess I just didn't understand, at 16, 17, 18 years old, what was going to be expected of me just from a daily duties, daily responsibilities checklist. And those are all things that I really love to share, with younger, aspiring college athletes, and some things, like I said, that I wish I would have known and maybe wrapped my head around a little bit better when I was younger, because I think I would have just been maybe onboarded in that system just a little bit quicker, cleaner, better. Obviously we were able to figure it out, and there's a bunch of good college athletes out there doing it right now, figuring it out. And ultimately, that's kind of one of the biggest things I think people look to hire college athletes, because of time management skills and their ability to problem solve and just figure it out. You get asked to do a lot of things at a really high level, especially in a Division One sports, like you're playing against some pretty high competition. You're pursuing a pretty prestigious degree, potentially, and there's a lot of things that are really expected of you. And you're still a kid, and you get put into an environment where you're expected to act like an adult, and those expectations are pretty high. So if you guys like this, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate a like, comment, subscribe. If there's some type of topic or some type of thing you'd like to see more of in the future, leave me a comment here in the section below, and we'll see you guys next time.